YouTube, welcome to the ultimate missing the timing and chain link blocking guide. This is going to teach you everything you need to know for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! How to be good, how to not be bad with missing the timing and chain link blocking. Let's begin.
There can only be one winner, and you're looking at it. Let's go.
Missing the timing. What does this mean? Well, anything you don't understand in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because you missed the timing. Why did you lose to Eldritch? Why did your effects not work? Why did your wife leave you? Because you missed the timing. So to identify something that could miss the timing, you're going to have to look for what's called the trigger condition and the trigger effect. Those are the two things. So for the trigger condition, it will say something like, if this card is summoned, when this card is summoned, that's the condition that will trigger the effect. So the key words you need to look for is the word when or the word if. Now, in real life, if means something could happen, maybe it won't. When means something will happen, but when will it happen? Now, is that relevant for Yu-Gi-Oh? No, it's not whatsoever, but do know that these words are different, if and when. Then you want to identify, is the trigger effect optional? It's optional if it says something like, you can do something. You can destroy back row. You can activate. So what does a when trigger effect look like? What does it look like? It says when you can. When this card is summoned, you can activate one of its effects. Now, what does an optional if trigger look like? Unicorn says, if this card is link summoned, you can discard a card, then target a card in the field. So what's the difference between the if and the when? One of these could miss the timing, the other cannot. That's going to be the when. When will miss the timing. How do you not miss the timing with a when optional trigger? To not miss the timing, you have to ensure that the trigger condition is the last thing to happen. So how would I cause the Stratos to miss the timing? Call the Haunted says, special summon a monster from your grave. So what you'll do is, if your opponent activates a card effect, then you chain link to someone called activate Call the Haunted to summon the Stratos. What's going to happen is Chainlink 2 will resolve first, Stratos is summoned, then Chainlink 1 is going to be the monster effect that your opponent activated or you activated, which means what's the last thing that happened? Not the summon of the Stratos, which means this will miss the timing. Now, how is it relevant that Nightmare Unicorn does not miss the timing? It's incredibly relevant. It's so important that it does not miss the timing. In fact, if Unicorn said when instead of if, it would be way worse. And by how good is it anyway? If we look at the most popular cards of the game, the Unicorn is in the top 10 because it doesn't miss the timing. So how is that relevant? Let's look at this handy dandy guide of cards. And if we look at the Unicorn, Unicorn has synergy with Masquerena. Masquerena will summon the Unicorn during your opponent's turn. So if you make this chain link 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you summon the Unicorn, if it said when, it would miss the timing. Now there's another type of card that does not miss the timing, and that's going to be a mandatory trigger. It does not, the activation's not optional. It's going to activate no matter what. So what does that look like? If this card is summoned, target a spell or trap card your opponent controls, destroy that target. Now, Dkayed, what if your opponent does not have a back row? It does not matter. This card does not care. It's going to activate no matter what. So these cards, even if they say when, are not going to miss the timing. It's a mandatory trigger. Only cards that say when, that are optional, will miss the timing. So what's a really good way to abuse missing the timing? Cards like Torrential Tribute and Bottomless Trap Hole. Now, Gia was dueling against a player that had Torrential Tribute, and she didn't know how to out it. She didn't know the way to go in. So I helped her on the fly with, hey, did you think of this obscure idea to play around Torrential? And she's like, what? Well, the last thing that happens has to be a summon to use Torrential. So what Gia did was she activated one of her card effects from her Phantom Knight deck. And after activating any of her card effects, she Chainlink Tued, banished the Fog Blade from the graveyard, which special summons a monster from the grave. By summoning a monster on Chainlink 2, the last thing to happen was not the summon, because then Chainlink 1 resolves, thus making a card like Torrential Tribute to miss the timing. Very good, very important to know that. Now, what else is in this guide before we go through the popular examples? If you're a Magic the Magic the Gathering player versus a Yu-Gi-Oh player, because this is a Chainlink blocking guide and a missing the timing guide, here's some good information. In Magic the Gathering, you could target a Chainlink with a negate. So you could be Chainlink 8, and you could negate Chainlink 1, right? You target the Chainlink. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you cannot target the Chainlinks. You must be the direct Chainlink after that card to negate the activation. So that means in Yu-Gi-Oh, you could purposely block the Chainlink from your opponent negating the activation. So otherwise, you could negate the monster on the field, the physical card itself with, let's say, Chalice. It says target a monster, negates effects. You're not negating the activation. You're not being the direct Chainlink activation after to negate the activation. So what is Chainlink blocking all about? It's all about abusing trigger effects. Now, what is good with here that's going to be abusing the trigger effects? There's a lot of cards here. These are all relevant cards with missing the timing in Chainlink blocking. So the most popular deck right now is the Shiraig Tri-Brigade Zodiac deck, and that's going to be right here. This is the main boss monster. This card on summon will banish a card in the field. Now you don't want this negated. You don't want this card to negate it. This would negate it. You don't want another popular card that negates it, like Draco, to negate it. So what you're going to do is you're going to block it from being negated. So the main way to summon your Shiraig is you activate Revolt during your opponent's turn, summoning a bunch of monsters from your grave or banish onto the field, then summoning the Shiraig. Now, when do I get to respond to the opponent revolting? When they activate Revolt, I could respond to the Revolt. Otherwise, if I pass my priority back to the Revolt player to resolve the Revolt, what's going to happen is it's going to summon their monsters. It's going to summon Shiraig. Shiraig's going to activate, and you want to put it on Chainlink 1. Do I get to respond to that? No. Public trigger effects activate first. Then trigger effects from the hand or quick effects can activate afterward. So by revolting monsters onto the field, you're going to be summoning monsters like Kit and Nerval that activate when being sent to the grave. So when the Nerval, Kit, and the Shiraig, all three want to be activated, they are all public trigger effects. So what you're going to do is you're going to put the Shiraig as Chainlink 1, put the Nerval on Chainlink 2, and put the Kit on Chainlink 3. You essentially put the crappiest effect on the final Chainlink, and then, after all public trigger effects are done triggering, your opponent can now respond with a card like Frame Gear Gamma, with a card like Apollo. But the Shiraig has been Chainlink blocked by the other cards, so you cannot negate the activation. The only way you would be able to negate the Shiraig in this situation is not going to be through a card like Apollo. It's not going to be through a card like Gamma. You're going to have to use a card like Droplet. Droplet can be activated to negate the effect, not the activation. So that's very important for Chainlink blocking. Now, what we have here are a bunch of popular cards that have to do with missing the timing or Chainlink blocking. And let's talk about some interactions. Let's say your opponent has Ash Blossom. You have a Black Metal Dragon, and you want to summon your Striker Dragon. You probably really want the Striker Dragon effect to search for the Boot Sector field spell. You don't want this to be negated, right? You really want this field spell. So what you're going to do is you're going to normal summon the Black Metal Dragon, send it to the graveyard, summoning a Striker Dragon. Now, 2 public trigger effects want to activate. The Black Metal Dragon wants to search your deck for a Red Eyes Darkness Metal. The Striker Dragon wants to search for the field spell. So the effect you care about most, you put on Chainlink 1. The effect you don't care about being negated, you put on Chainlink 2. So that means when they activate their Ash Blossom, they will be negating the Black Metal Dragon, and you will be able to search with the Striker Dragon. So you're choosing what your opponent gets to respond to. What is another interaction? Veiler is not going to be a card that gets Chainlink blocked. So if they go through a bunch of Chainlink blocks, you could just activate Veiler to negate the Charade, negate their monster, negate the Striker Dragon from searching the deck. Now, normally negating an activation is better than negating an effect because it usually comes with destroying the card in addition to negating it. But here's a scenario where Effect Veiler is better because it can't get Chainlink blocked. Now, there is another way to Chainlink block. Generally, you Chainlink block with just trigger effects, but you could also do it with quick effects sometimes. So let's say my opponent has Maiden. Maiden says when a card or effect is activated that targets this card, you could summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Well, not on my watch. She needs to be the direct chain link to the card that's targeting herself. So what a Blue Eyes player will do, they're going to activate a card to target her, then they have to pass priority to you. What are you going to do? You're going to block her effect. So if you have a card like Maxi, activate it right now. Boom, Chainlink 2 Maxi. Now, she'll be Chainlink 3, right? Wrong. She has to respond to the card that's targeting her, and you just blocked her. How dare you? Another Chainlink block is going to be with a card like Thunder Dragon Titan. How this deck works is they activate a Thunder Dragon card from the hand as a quick effect, and they Chainlink to the Titan. If you steal the Chainlink 2 with a card like Maxi, the Titan doesn't activate. It doesn't destroy any card in the field. Just block it. Block it. If you're from Duel Links, then this card's more relevant. Cyber/Harpy, in response to a spell or trap, will activate to pop a card, to return a card and field back to the hand. If you chain link to a monster effect like Maxi, she gets blocked. She's not going to return. Just understand that this is a turn-based game. You do have to learn that when you have priority and when your opponent has priority. What that means is if I am the one to activate a spell and then they want to activate Cyber/Harpy, you can't say, hold up, I want to max C to my spell. You can't do that because when you activate a spell, you have to pass priority to your opponent. And if the opponent wants to activate Cyber/Harpy, they will do it. But what happens is if they are the turn player or they're the player that activates the spell, you could then chain your monster effect to prevent the Cyber/Harpy from activating. That's going to be a Chainlink block. What else are relevant cards here? Maxi for Chainlink blocking. The Frame Gear could be Chainlink blocked. So if you care about an effect, put the good effect on Chainlink 1, the bad effect on Chainlink 2, then Frame Gear will not be able to negate. Ash Blossom, if you have a very important search, put the Chainlink on 1 and then Chainlink 2 the other card. So for example, Block Dragon is a really important effect. The very important effect of Block Dragon is search your deck for 3 monsters. You don't want that negated. So what you're going to do is you're going to send the Block Dragon to the graveyard for Hulk. Then both public trigger effects are going to want to activate. You have the Block Dragon that wants to search. You have the Hulk that wants to summon a monster from the deck. If you put Block Dragon on Chainlink 1, you put Hulk on Chainlink 2, you just protected your Block Dragon from being negated by Ash Blossom. That's very important because normally when you are playing the deck with Block Dragon, you have the option, instead of summoning Hulk, you could summon Apollo. Now, Apollo could negate anyway, but if you just want it to be Chainlink blocked to not have to waste a negate with Apollo, that could be an option of Chainlink blocking your Block Dragon. What else is relevant here? We have a card like Light Pulsar Dragon that says, when this card is sent to the graveyard, you could special summon a dragon from your grave. Now, this card used to not miss the timing. The original version of the card said, if this is sent to the graveyard, you summon a dragon. And Konami was like, the card's too broken. It's too good. So they had to change the card. That's how you know the importance of if versus when. They had to nerf the card because it was too broken. This will miss the timing. This will not miss the timing. If that does not really drill it into your head how important this is, that's a big nerf. Moving on, we have the other card to look at. We have Noctovision, activates when being sent to the graveyard. This could chain link block a link. We have Ultimateness, which could be chain link blocked. Put your important effects on chain link 1, chain link 2, 3, and 4. It will only be able to negate the latest one. You have cards like Lost World and Prank Kids Place. You could use these as chain link 2 to block your effects, or if you put them on chain link 1, they could block cards like Torrential Tribute. Very good. So what you would do is, if you chain link to an effect to special summon a monster, then the monster will be summoned and the place will activate to boost. We then have the Cyberload Fusion. Cyberload Fusion is a quick effect to summon. So what you want to do is, a card like Rampage Dragon misses the timing. Rampage Dragon is going to, when summoned, fusion summoned, destroy back row cards in the field. So what you're going to do is, if they activate Mystical Space Typhoon on your Cyberload Fusion and you chain flip it up, you miss the timing. That's it. You have to summon the Rampage on chain link 1. What else are relevant cards? Canadia. If a trap card's activated, you could summon Canadia from the grave, all the Paleozoics. If you chain Maxi to the trap, then you just chain link blocked the Canadia. Droplet cannot be chain link blocked, so that's very good. The House Dragon Maid can miss the timing. So if you have a card like Tidying, Tidying will return a monster you control back to your hand and a card your opponent controls back to their hand. If you chain link to the Tidying, then your House Dragon Maid will not activate to destroy a monster on the field. You have to use Tidying on chain link 1, or the Maid will miss the timing. The Borreload Savage Dragon could be chain link blocked. The Fang, Chow Fang, we just saw this in the tournament. When destroyed, search your deck for a tuner. This could search for Ash Blossom. They accidentally destroyed their own card on chain link 2, thus making it miss the timing. He destroyed his own monster and did not search because it missed the timing. This could be chain link blocked. You have the Masquerena, which could summon on chain link 2 or higher to summon cards that don't miss the timing. And then you have cards like Access Code Talker. You cannot respond to this card activating on its summon. So what you do is you put all of your good trigger effects that are activating when sent to the graveyard on the summon of the Access Code Talker. You put Access Code Talker on the final chain link. They can't respond to it. A lot of players screw this up. If you put Access Code Talker on chain link 1 and then a trigger effect from the graveyard on chain link 2, your Access Code Talker is going to get torrentialed. That's insane. I've seen it happen so many times. Don't be a fool. Put Access Code Talker on the final chain link since your opponent cannot respond to it. And those are all the popular cards that have to do with chain link blocking and missing timing. Let me know if you learned a lot, or if you didn't learn anything. If you're still confused, let me know. I'm trying to make the videos quick and just show you the relevant cards. Thank you very much. Fools!